Yes, afternoon. I didn't record this morning on the way to work because I had phone calls going off every 2 minutes, and I really did not feel like trying to splice those videos together. So, this afternoon, we're going to talk about what I had originally planned on talking about this morning. The next of the 9 traditions that we need to cover, the Euthanatos. Now, these guys are some of my favorites, but so often they get misunderstood. They get called, death mages, and they get lumped in as they just like to go around killing people and ending lives and all of this. I actually remember someone a few years ago that was attempting to describe the Euthanatos to another new player and described them as something like the Punisher mages, which just really made my hair stand on end. And I had a lot more of it then than I do now, so it was not good. But no, the Thanatos, also referred to by their ancient name, the Chakravanti. Now, these guys are will workers that came out of the ancient Indian and Greek and Sumerian death cults. That is true. They came out of death cults, but they are not just death mages. They do hold the seat of entropy on the Council of Nine. Now, entropy, you'll know from the previous videos, is the magic of fate. It is the magic of both destruction and prevention of destruction. That holds true for the Euthanatos as well. They are all about the cycle of things, the great wheel of life, the cycle of life and death. Now, don't get me wrong. They are killers. Flat out. I mean, they do kill. That's a big part of what they do. Yes, they kill people. But they don't just kill people for no reason. They have a philosophy which encapsulates karma, fate, the wheel of life, and something that they refer to as the good death. Now, the Euthanatos' purpose in the world is to reduce suffering. Okay? That seems like a very positive thing, a very good thing. Make less suffering. Okay. Now, there are 2 ways, though, that you reduce suffering in the world. The first way that you reduce suffering is you help people. You give people things they need. You feed the hungry. You clothe the poor. You fill those needs for people. That reduces suffering. Yes, very true. But there's another aspect to reducing suffering. And I'm going to go to the example from the Euthanatos tradition book very early on. You have 2 Euthanatos. They are discussing committing a murder. They are having a conversation about committing a murder. Now, one of them is counseling the other one that you should not call it murder. The person, you're not going to murder someone, you are seeking out a target. The wording and the symbolism is very potent to this person. And as you start to see the story unfold, spoilers for a 10-year-old book if you haven't read it, what you find out is that they have discovered through video evidence that this person that they are seeking out, this target, is a child molester. Right? Now, the Euthanatos' job in the world is to reduce suffering. Okay, so if you have someone who is inflicting suffering on others, then by inflicting death on that person, you disenable them to inflict suffering on others. You reduce the amount of suffering in the world by removing that person from the world. And that is a heavy burden. That is a dark decision to make. But the Euthanatos will weigh up the death of one bad person that will prevent the suffering of multiple innocents, and will weigh that as a good death. It is a death that benefits mankind. So, what do? They break into the guy's house. They find him sitting in his lazy boy recliner. They pin him down, pull guns on him, and they start explaining to him that he is going to die, and there's nothing he can do about that. And as he's begging for his life, a woman comes up from downstairs. Starts screaming, of course. They knock her down. They look into her eyes, and they weigh her transgressions. They discover that she's been helping him molest these children, but she's been doing it because she's afraid of him. Okay, now then, what does that mean to the equation? What does that mean to the good death? Well, it means there's no point killing her, because if you remove him from the equation, then her infliction of suffering goes away. They define that she is redeemable. So they tie her up. They shoot him once in the head and twice in the chest, just because they are nothing if not thorough. They go downstairs, find 3 kids down there, and they take the woman, they take the kids, they take them out of there, and they march them right on down to the nearest cloister, Celestial Chorus stronghold, and say, these people need help. Help them. And drop them off. That's the Euthanatos. They're definitive in what they do. There is a right and there is a wrong, and there are people that add to the world and there are people that subtract from the world, and if someone subtracts from the world, they should not be allowed to be part of it. Now, the other thing that plays into this, when we talk about the cycle of life and death, is that the Euthanatos believe wholeheartedly in reincarnation. And there is actually a very impressive but very heavy and dark scene in the middle of this event that I've just been describing, where the Euthanatos is talking to this man and explains to him that he is going to die, and it is going to hurt, because death should hurt, because they want to make sure that his heart and that his soul remember the pain of this death, and remember the pain that he inflicted in this life, so that when he reaches the next life, this death will stay with him, and he will have learned something from it. That he will give more to the next life, because he will remember what cost him this life. And when you think about that, when you think about the burden that it puts on someone to believe wholeheartedly that you are going to be responsible for not only ending a life, but for imprinting the aspect that that death will have on the next life, it means that if you don't provide the good death properly, you could screw them up in their next life, and they could be even worse than they are now. And you've hurried them along into that next life and messed them up in it. That means that if they do anything bad in that next life, it's on you. And that's heavy. And because of that, most Euthanatos are quite somber. They're not happy people. They're also taught, because they are the ones issuing death, that they need to distance themselves from it. You cannot let killing someone weigh your soul down because it's necessary. But you also cannot let yourself enjoy it too much, because that's not why you're doing it. They walk a tightrope in everything they do. They have to keep that middle ground in order to keep the wheel from getting clogged, as they put it. They look at it and they think all of this evil and all of this death and all of this crap, it keeps the wheel from spinning the way it should. The wheel should just turn and turn and turn. But when it gets hung up, when something gets stuck in the spokes and stops the wheel from moving freely, you have to rip it out. And that's how they see killing these people. That's how they justify these people having to die. Because them dying makes the wheel better. I've seen a lot of people play Euthanatos. I've played a lot of Euthanatos. I've not seen many people play them well. I would like to say that I played them well, but I'm probably a bit of a biased judge on that. I'm going to leave it at there now, because I'm where I'm going. But, yeah, think about that. Think about what it would be like to play a character who literally feels that the life and death and the turning of the wheels of the world is based on their decisions. Anyway, if I haven't dragged you down too much with that, like, subscribe. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk about something more cheerful. Maybe less impactful, but more cheerful. Have a great day.